One of the few areas where the Switch 2 has disappointed me thus far is in its controllers. Objectively, both the Switch 2 Joy-Con and Pro Controller are improvements, but they fail to address the most significant issues on either device. The analog sticks are still of low quality, and the D-pad is either non-existent on the Joy-Con or just inaccurate on the Pro Controller. So naturally, I jumped at the chance of taking an early look at the Absolute S8. The S8 is a Bluetooth-based controller grip attachment compatible with both Switch and Switch 2, in addition to most Bluetooth-compatible devices such as phone, PC, or tablet. It boasts a proper D-pad, Hall effects joysticks and triggers, gyro support, and actual ergonomic design. Being Bluetooth, the controller does not connect directly to your system in the same way a Joy-Con would. Rather, the system registers it as a Switch Pro controller. It is worth highlighting that since the system thinks it's a Switch 1 Pro controller rather than a Switch 2 Pro controller, you cannot wake the system from sleep mode with it, nor can you customize the rear trigger buttons from the quick menu. By default, these buttons are mapped to clicking the left and right sticks, which is fine for me because honestly a lot of times that's what I map them to. But in order to remap them, you'll need to download a smartphone app. It isn't the most elegant solution, and I would have preferred something that could be done on the controller itself through button combinations. Now, I found the device quite comfortable, though it does look a little ridiculous attached to a Switch 2, but I'd say it looks reasonably nice paired with my Pixel 9 Pro. The grips feel comparable to an Xbox One or Xbox Series controller, and are significantly more comfortable for long play sessions than the Joy-Con. Likewise, the analog sticks are a massive improvement over the Joy-Con or Pro controller. They feel responsive and snappy without any of the minor snapback issues that can be seen on the official Switch 2 Pro controller. The D-pad isn't anything to write home about, but compared to Nintendo's current offerings, it is still an improvement. The face buttons are a bit of an oddity. They function great, no complaints there, but they're organized in the configuration of an Xbox controller, with A on the bottom rather than on the right, as it would be on most Nintendo controllers. However, when attached to the Switch or Switch 2, the controls default to where the buttons should be rather than where they actually are. In other words, if a game wants you to press A, you'll press the button on the right, despite the fact that that button is labeled as B. I'd be perfectly fine just using the Xbox layout, but this weird mismatch could be extremely confusing for anyone without that ingrained muscle memory. Using the phone app or the Switch's internal button remapping, you could adjust this if desired, but it will take extra steps. The one other button-based issue I encountered relates to the triggers. The S8 features analog triggers, which in most instances are just objectively superior to Nintendo's digital triggers. However, as the Switch 2 isn't really built for them, it can lead to false trigger holds due to the short time it takes the trigger to return to their starting position. The amount this will affect you depends on what kind of games you're playing, but in games where you press the trigger quickly to fire or hold it down to charge up a shot, you may find yourself unintentionally briefly starting to charge a shot after every button press. I encountered this while using the controller to play a game I recently reviewed, Space Adventure Cobra, where quick successions of shots would often read as a single charge shot instead of individual shots. It'd be nice if you were able to physically adjust the trigger distance, such as is possible on the Nixie Warrior controller that I reviewed earlier this year. On the other hand, the analog triggers do come in handy when using this anywhere besides the Switch, such as on your smartphone. The Absolute S8 is a sturdy, well-made device that is comfortable to use and has some significant advantages over the official offerings from Nintendo. Most of its problems come in its desire to be both a Nintendo and smartphone device in equal measure. I do wish a device that is marketed so heavily towards the Switch and Switch 2 was focused a bit more on fitting the specific needs of that ecosystem. Even with that said, if I am going to be playing Switch 2 portably for an extended period of time, I will still likely reach for the S8. It isn't perfect by any means, but it does offer a more comfortable experience with improved, though occasionally mislabeled, controls in most areas. This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.